Hey guys, Manny, what was that for?
That's in honor of Eddie Van Halen, who passed away today.
What is up with the audio?
Oh, gotta lower the volume, somebody.
Hey guys, Manny, what was that for? It's probably you.
That's in honor of Eddie Van Halen, who passed away.
Whose audio is that?
Vanessa, I think you gotta turn on
Probably you, Vanessa.
Gotta lower the volume, somebody.
Vanessa, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, you might want to lower your volume because there's like a feedback there.
That's in honor of Eddie Van Halen, who passed away.
Whose audio is that?
It's probably
Vanessa, I think you gotta turn on.
Okay, yeah, it's probably yours. Yeah.
I lowered it.
You won't be able to watch Facebook while we do the live. It's very sensitive that way. Awesome back there.
Eddie Van Halen.
Okay. Audio is that? Did it go away already? It's probably yours.
Hold on, I'm sharing the link right now, you guys.
You won't be able to watch. That's fine, but you're gonna have to like mute that thing. Okay. Audio is that? Did it go away already? It's probably yours.
Hold on, I'm sharing the link right now, you guys.
You won't be.
Okay. Now I can't really hear you guys. Hold on.
You should be able to hear us.
Yeah,
just do me a favor. You can get rid of Facebook that you're watching. You don't have to be on it. You'll just watch whatever we have on our screen, whatever you look at, and that way there won't be any feedback or anything like that. That'll be good. Yeah, guys. Hey, guys. Yeah, sorry for the musical interlude. Manny wanted to play that. We had originally planned a completely different music. Hey, Myra, what's going on? But Manny decided he wanted to play that. Yeah, well, we actually, Manny, just so Zach, so you know, we've been using YouTube as we stream our YouTube, and YouTube seems to be fair with us, and we're not using it completely, and we don't own the rights to it, but we're using specifically YouTube music within this particular thing. Hey, Indiana. Guys, welcome. This is RioPolitics Live. It's a little bit later than we had planned. Hey, Cameron County Conservatives. We are joined with us today is Vanessa Tijerina. She is a candidate for Texas Senate District 27. Hey, Vanessa, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me on here, gentlemen. Thank you, Roman.
Awesome.
Thank you, Manny.
And right above me is a guy by the name of Josh Peltier. He is with the Cameron County Republican, Cameron County Conservatives Facebook page and group, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, cool. Anything happening in Brownsville today? Because I saw a lot of pictures of some stuff happening in Brownsville. What's going on in Brownsville, man? Josh?
A billboard went up supporting our president, and a lot of people are happy about it, and some not so much. So we'll see what happens.
I heard these vicious rumors that some people that are being triggered by this thing have called the city. And they have been upset, and they want it taken down. Am I right on that, Josh? Is that true? The rumor that I heard?
That's possible. That could be the word down on Elizabeth Street. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I don't know why they'd even be watching that billboard. They should be home, staying at home, not in this pandemic. It's supposed to be taken seriously. Like that's what we keep being told. So don't go out there and get triggered and watch the video. Watch the billboard. Hey, Manny, how you doing, Manny? Manny is Manny Station.
Man, here taking care of the controls, trying to keep things on the down low and nice and smooth and calm. It's going to be a great night.
Yeah.
Questions ready, and we're just going to go with the flow and have a nice show.
Yeah, just so you all know, guys, Manny is in charge of the Manny Station. He does the comments. So the comments that you see behind on the screen, those are coming either from Facebook or from YouTube. So please like our YouTube channel, subscribe to our channel. We would appreciate it. Please also like our RioPolitics Facebook page. We would appreciate it. Share our stream. What we've been doing since August is interviewing candidates and office holders that are potentially on the ballot in November from now until the election to help you all out, because we do not want you all going out in public during this pandemic. And so that's what we've been doing. So that's why we have Vanessa on. Vanessa, please tell me who you are. First question out of the bat. Tell me who you are, why you're running. Give us a minute or two of who you are.
My name is Vanessa Tijerina, and first of all, I want to tell all of my followers to please share this right now. These are the moments that we've been waiting for, you guys. So please share the heck out of this right now. Thank you. So my name is Vanessa Tijerina, and I'm a 9th generation Texan. I've been a nurse for over 20 years. I'm a mom of 4 children. And I got political about 5 years ago. Before that, I would vote, I would care about the issues, I would raise awareness to the issues. But about 5 years ago, I identified really deep-seated systemic corruption in every single level of government that matters here in the Rio Grande Valley. And when I started to get my story out there, other people also confirmed their situations as well. During that time, there was also a special education nightmare that was forming. Mr. Rosenthal from the Houston Chronicle was the one that broke that story out. So in that time, I was trying to get special ed for my child. So I was just a mom and a nurse at this time. And then I was suddenly forced to become political because nobody was addressing the issue of corruption. Nobody was giving the necessary level of oversight over all the agencies that were failing people. And obviously, it happened under Senator Lucio's watch, the special education issue. It was so bad that I had to petition the State Board of Education. And then I petitioned the U.S. Board of Education after the State Board of Education ignored the whole problem. And Senator Lucio is not only the senator, basically the highest level of power in the Senate District 27, where all of this was happening. He was the chairman of special education. So he was in a position to address corruption, and he was in a position to address the special education issue. And he failed to do both. So what do? What are you always taught in government? What do they tell you? If they're not doing the job for you, then you run. That's what I'm doing.
The first thing that we wanted to do today is look at people's campaign finance reports. And the reason we look at campaign finance reports is they were due yesterday. Those of you who are not familiar with Texas law when it comes to campaign finance reports, you have to turn them in whether you're a candidate or an office holder, or even if you lose and you still have money, you have to turn it in. And so you usually turn it in semi-annually, but when there's an election season or you're on the ballot, or you're involved in some sort of PAC, you have to turn it in 30 days before an election and 8 days before an election. So I want to show everybody here where you can look at campaign finance reports, not just to, they're going to maybe mute the music, not right now. So don't worry, Zach, calm down, slow down. Anyway, what we'll do is show you where you can look at Vanessa Tijerina's campaign finance reports, Eddie Lucio's campaign finance report. Anybody that's running for state is on the Texas Ethics Commission. So man, you can pull up Google. So you can Google. I just want to show everybody where we can look to help you all out.
You want me to go through this?
Yeah, from the very beginning. Yeah, please. Sorry. So what he'll do is you're going to search. So you can know, you go to Google and you Google Texas Ethics Commission, Texas Ethics Commission. And when you click on that, are you there, man?
Yeah.
Cool. You just Google Texas Ethics Commission. That's what he did. And you'll get a little thing that says search campaign finance report. You click on that. And when you go down, scroll down just a little bit, you're going to see a simple searches return full report. You click on that and that'll give you that. And then you can decide what you want to search. You can search filer name. You can search treasurer's name, report number, filer ID, committee acronym. In this case, we're going to search by filer name. You're going to click filer name. And just to be fair, we're going to look at your opponents just so we can show his real quick. Type in Lucio. You put Lucio last name or whatever. Manny, you might want to take off the tag like Zach completely off so people can see the screen.
Yep.
Thank you. And there's actually two Eddie Lucios. The lower number is the junior, and the higher number is Eddie Lucio III. So you'll click on the second one to click. Let's say you want to look at Senator Lucio's campaign finance report.
Okay, let me get out and go back to that page now.
Guys, this is a weird thing with StreamYard, guys, so I apologize, but you have to get like certain permissions when you go from one page to another. Not us. So you're going to look at this. And so this is the one that he just turned in that was due yesterday. And he turns it in. If you click on the upper right-hand side, you'll see like little play button. It'll take you to all his other ones. And so whatever he's turned in, he has like 48 slides of this stuff. So if you go back to the first page, Manny, just go back. Thank you. You'll see that he raised contributions of $86,000. That's between July 15th or July 1st when it was, June 30th. Am I right on that? The covering period? Oh, there you go. July 5th.
July 5th, yeah.
Up to September 24th, he raised $86,000, and then he spent an additional $300,000. He literally has no money on hand in this race. and he has an outstanding loan of $34,557. Cool. That is what he has in his race. And what you can do is you click on the PDF data. We're not going to do that right now. You can click on a PDF data on the bottom. That will give you the PDF actual file, and you can go through it all you want to. And you go up to the other one, it'll give you the CSV file, and you can put in like an Excel sheet or whatever, and you can go through and investigate who's giving Eddie Lucio money. And if you go to the play button on the, it'll take you to the other one. You can do the same thing. So we're going to look at Vanessa's campaign finance report just so everybody can see hers and say that we're looking at hers.
Okay.
Awesome. That's a lot of money, guys. $86,000 to raise is a lot of money. Not necessarily in a state senate race. You also have the issue of he's spending $300,000 in the race. It's a lot of money. Ready? We're gonna look at Vanessa's. That's what pops up for Vanessa. Vanessa, care to explain? I don't want to put you on the spot, but you only have July 15th. The one that was due yesterday, you did not turn it in. Am I right on that?
I missed it.
Huh? You missed it. But you'll be turning it in today, hopefully by midnight, and then you'll have it turned in. Yeah. Just so everybody knows. Yeah.
Zero expenditures. So
Zero expenditures. Okay.
There's nothing, there's nothing out there.
Okay, and you had no raised money, no expenditures between I guess the last filing for that period was February 4th. Zero. Okay, and if you want to, you can look at the other one, Manny, real quick. The second page, so she can see that she did pay a filing fee to get on the ballot. And right there, that is the summary on itemized expenditure. That is for a filing fee. So in order to run as a Republican, Vanessa, you decided to pay your filing fee. Is there a particular reason why you went that route as opposed as opposed to doing a signature?
I thought that signatures were things that was an option that people did when they didn't have the money to do it. And so this seat was really important to me. And there was no way. I know the problem with signatures is that if they're not registered voters, if they can find any reason, it's easier for them to disqualify you from the ballot when you go the signature route. There's so many more things that could happen. And once I pay the fee, it's like, there's nothing they can do about it. My name's there.
And just so everybody knows, if you ever see somebody that didn't turn in a campaign finance report, usually what the Ethics Commission will do is they will fine a person and consider them a delinquent filer. And you can actually go into the campaign finance, into the Ethics Commission page, look at the delinquent filers, and you're going to find there is a lot of people that don't turn in their campaign finance reports and owe money to the Ethics Commission. I highly recommend you, Vanessa, and any candidate that didn't turn in their campaign finance report on time to please turn it in as quickly as possible so that we can have transparency.
Yeah, I'm getting some messages that they want to see hers, and it's like, that's hers right there. We're showing it to you right now.
Okay, if you want to, Manny, click on the PDF file so you can actually see that one if you wanted to. And you can see what it is.
Page not found. This one has got nothing in there.
Oh, really?
Click to a dead page. No page there.
The dead page. Well, that's what that
information is.
So feel free to look at it on your own time, guys. I just quickly wanted to look at this because yesterday we spent time looking at campaign finance reports at BISD. In the coming days, we'll do the same thing with other candidates and go through them one by one and enjoy that. But I wanted to get to the next question. Manny, I think you had a question that you wanted to ask, either you or Josh.
No, Josh, you can go ahead first, please.
Okay. So, Ms. Tijerina, I believe in political parties should have a big tent policy. You've chosen to run as a Republican, which is a center-right party. You are a liberal or progressive, as you have run as a Green Party and Democrat Party candidate in the past. Your Facebook page has many prominent Democrats like Bernie Sanders and Robert Francis O'Rourke. Is this strategic by you to show that you would be bipartisan, or would you strictly work with Democrats to undermine the Republican Party's agenda if you're elected to the Senate?
First of all, the Democrats were the ones that did these badly behaving things to my life. I don't have no loyalty to the Democrats, but I don't have no loyalty to the Republican Party either. My loyalty is to the people and only to the people, which includes Republicans and Democrats and people that are not affiliated with either party. That's where my loyalty lies, period. Now, that just shows you that I'm an independent thinker. I was a Bernie type 5 years ago, and I've evolved a lot since then. So things that Bernie types do now, things that Bernie types say now, like defund the police, abolish ICE, things like that, that sounds outlandish to me. 5 years ago, that would have probably sounded a little bit, reasonable to me. Not anymore. I had to evolve, and I had to evolve quickly. And I understood that the Bernie types were not something that Texas was ready for. And so my loyalty doesn't lie with any one party. My loyalty lies to the people. And that only shows you that I'm an independent thinker. That's it. Parties were meant for one thing and one thing only. Let's remember that the ideology of the Democrats and the Republicans changes every couple of decades, okay? So we can't really say that they are fast and hard with their ideologies, right? And that goes to show everybody the parties don't matter but for one thing, and that is to put your name on the ballot. That's it.
Manny?
Can I do a quick follow-up question, Roman?
Oh yeah, Josh, go right ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Mine was in the.
Sorry, Manny. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Mine
So,
mine is Josh anyway.
Tijerina, if you're saying that you're an independent thinker, why not just run as an independent? Why pick a party to run with?
Because if I'm really going to do the maximum that I can do and potentiate my abilities in this seat, then of course I'm going to roll up my sleeves and into the party that's in power. Why am I going to fight the party that's in power? Why can't I become that party? So traditionally, we've had the Democrats that have been the party of the people. We've had all of this cognitive dissonance, and some of y'all may or may not have heard of that term that are watching. Dissonance means that your culture or something in your life made you start thinking a certain way, and you just adopted that as the status quo, as something that was true and real. And so all this time we've been thinking that the Democratic Party has been the party of the people, and the Republican Party has been the neglectful party. Truth be told, their legislation really probably doesn't take care of the people as much as the Democrats' legislation does. However, I think that we should have a Texas, where both parties work equally as well for the people, where one is not ousted as being the badly behaving party. What we need is that every party that wants to be involved in politics should be equally helping these people, not lagging or being so neglectful that one of them looks like they're behaving badly.
Vanessa, it's okay. When can you ask questions? You can ask your questions. Manny is in charge of them. In order to do it, we have our own questions that we're trying to get across first. But if you have a question that comes up, I will interrupt Vanessa if that's okay, Vanessa. That's how I handle things, and I'll ask that question, or at least allow Vanessa to finish her thought. Okay?
Yes, allow me to finish my thought.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Myra. Manny, did you have a question? Your question?
No, you can go ahead. I'll check in with you later. Josh kind of was in the same line as I was. So.
Okay, awesome. If elected, Vanessa, what would be the first legislation you would file? Because you have to file your bills almost immediately when you're elected.
The first thing that I would work on is, first of all, I'd want to have a town hall kind of discussion with my constituents, and I want to get a connection with them. I would want to ask everybody in District 27, figure out a way to ask them, whether it's town hall meetings, virtually is probably going to have to be that. Then I want to know what are their top three most pressing issues. Those are the issues that I'm going to address. Those are the issues.
The reason
I don't know what those are yet because I have not polled the people.
Well,
I'm not the kind of senator that just goes in there and does whatever she wants.
Yeah, well, the thing is that when you're running as a candidate, not to interrupt you, but when you're running, you usually have issues you want to run on. Usually you have an idea of what you want to do. Unfortunately, the way the Texas Senate works, you almost have to immediately turn in your bills, or if not, your bills will be put forth in a calendar committee, get lost, and the issues for SC 27 won't be heard, which is why I'm asking, is there anything in particular that you would put forward immediately, not because of who we are as an SD, but what you feel is important? Is there,
let me know when I can answer.
Okay. I just think special needs is something that you've talked about. I would assume that would be maybe an issue that you would put forth. Would that be considered by you as a bill?
The special needs situation is supposedly already being taken care of. Okay. I can't tell y'all that I'm going to file a bill on there until I see what bills are going to be filed by the senators and state reps and people that are already taking care of the issue. So I would love to do that, but apparently, remember, when the United States Board of Education told our Governor Abbott, you need to implement a corrective action plan, Abbott implemented a corrective action plan. many of us many educators and many parents and advocates of students with special needs in Texas realized that it was a failure and it wasn't enough. And so obviously we should have some state reps and state senators already working on that. So if there had been no bill filed to address that, that's what I would do first.
If elected, what cities do you think you would put a district office in? Usually a state district office will have about 3, depending on the size of the senatorial district. And so where do you think you would put your campaign, and not your campaign, but your district offices to help represent the people of SD 27?
One needs to be in Willacy County, and it needs to be more productive than anything anybody's ever seen. Willacy County is so far removed and so rural, and I think that's why some people in power behave the way that they behave. So the closer that we are to the capital, the more people tend to behave. The farther away we are, the more badly behaving the government seems to be. That's why you have problems in East Texas and South Texas. And so, I'm sorry, West Texas and South Texas. And so if you can bring a semblance to the party, a semblance of a presence to the areas that need it the most, that would be one of them, would be Willacy County.
So one would be Willacy County. Where would the other 2 be?
Brownsville and Westerville.
Okay, so you would not have anything in Kingsville, because I think right now St. Lucia has something in Kingsville, in Claiborne County.
If that's the case, then I'd have one in Kingsville and only have one in the Mid Valley and not in Brownsville.
Okay, makes sense. Just so everybody knows, SD 27 represents Claiborne County, Kennedy County, Willacy County, all of Cameron County, and about 40% of Hidalgo County. Usually people consider Brownsville to be the seat of it because it's the largest city in the entire senatorial district, and it has about 200,000 people that live in there, and depending on what the next census is. So that's where we are. Man, did you have another question?
Yeah, but
I'll keep going.
yeah.
Would you introduce legislation that would prohibit a concealed carry license holder from bringing their weapons in houses of worship?
Unless we suddenly start having, issues that are greater than what we've already seen, then the issue with gun control for me is in the schools. Not so much.
About houses of worship specifically, because that was an issue in the last legislative session.
Well,
and
I would put that to poll for my constituents. Whatever my constituents would want me to fight for, that's what I would fight for.
Okay. If you're wondering why I'm looking down, it's because I didn't save my things. I just put it on my phone, so I apologize. So you don't, at this point, you don't have a stance whether or not you would allow concealed license holders to be able to have a gun in house of worship right now. That's
anything that's a very controversial situation. It's something that's, when you are having to pick if it's something that's very controversial, then that needs to go.
Everything is controversial.
Not everything.
Well, the Second Amendment can be controversial.
Legislation to support school districts, and nobody's really going to say no to that in a big way. However, you want to talk about gun control, there's going to be an issue there.
Okay.
And that's going to be a little bit messier. So anything that's going to be a little bit messier, where you're going to have people on polar opposite sides, and they're going to be very passionate, that's going to need to be. You don't
want to take a stance on that issue. That's all right. I respect that. I understand. I have no doubt if you're elected, you would bring your background, your perspective on how to vote or offer legislation in the state Senate. With that in mind, what is your religious faith or denomination, and do you believe it is part of who you are, and would that influence your legislation and votes as a state senator?
I subscribe to the teachings of Jesus, and I subscribe to parts of the Bible that are the most reasonable. I'm going to be honest with you, and I think that there's some portions of the Bible that have controlled our lives to such a degree that we tend to not care about some of the issues that some people care about, simply because the indoctrination of the Bible in our lives. And so I have always followed the teachings of Jesus and the book of Romans. And the book of Romans to me is the most reasonable book out of all of the Bible.
But would it influence what you would do as a legislature at all?
No, you're always supposed to separate church and state. So it would have absolutely no influence on anything that I would do.
You see, the reason I'm asking you this question is because You'll have people that are attorneys, that you'll have people that are businessmen, and they bring that perspective in, and they allow that to determine how they potentially will vote. But you don't believe that a person's faith or where they come from. And many Republicans tend to be more center right, like Josh said, and so they would hope that their legislator would use their faith and their belief in God to help influence potentially their role as a legislator. You
I don't
disagree?
know why anybody would use religion when we know that we're supposed to separate religion and government.
Understood. Judge Amy Coney Barrett is considered to give the Supreme Court the majority, and making it more of a conservative court. And they expect her to potentially overturn Roe v. Wade. And what that would do is force each individual state under the terms of federalism and allow them states to, regulate abortion without Roe v. Wade being an issue because it'll be overturned. So if you're elected, if your term is a 2-year term or a 4-year term, depending on what straw you draw in the next legislature, would you, in fact, be completely 100% pro-abortion, pro-choice, or are there any limitations that you would impose on women in abortion?
I don't agree with late-term abortions, especially unless there is extenuating circumstances. Literally, very extenuating circumstances. I believe women's autonomous right to choose. You gonna let me answer the question?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I understand.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead and tell me.
No. I want to make sure you would be willing to encode that into law and support that.
Yeah, I do not agree with late-term abortion. However, it should be taken as a case-by-case basis, because if we put a blanket against late-term abortion, then there are people who will use that to their advantage to be able to say this is not an extenuating circumstance. So it needs to go by case-by-case basis. So, but me, I don't agree with that, and I don't think that that's another thing. That's a very controversial issue, and I would put that to polls. But you're asking me right now, and I'm going to tell you. And so there's a sticky situation with this because people in Texas don't want to fund abortions, and I can understand why. A lot of people don't want the government money to be funding abortions. However, we live in an area of the nation where a lot of the circumstances that we live require people to women make that kind of decision over their own bodies. So it's two parts. I agree with women being able to make that choice. However, I have an issue with people wanting their abortions to be paid by government funding.
Manny had
Ladies and gentlemen, no, I just want to remind everybody we're talking to Vanessa Tijerina, Texas State congressional candidate. And
Senate
we are
candidate.
live. Senate candidate, I'm sorry. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. If everybody could please remember, you can share this to your friends. Anybody wants to get in on this. There are many comments coming in, so I'm trying to get all of them. Sometimes they skip pages, so I'm not removing or deleting anything intentionally. It just passes me up, so I'll try to get to everything there as we move along here.
Yeah, and they're still going to be on your questions and comments will still be there for her to potentially see afterwards. It's just whatever pops up on the screen. So apologies. Is there any particular?
I want to say something real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, because I see a lot of questions coming up here right now. Right?
Yeah, it's hard. I'm
not going to be answering no questions regarding nothing that doesn't have anything to do with direct functions of a senator. And I think that's the thing that I think some people thought that this was going to be just a free for all, and that's not what it's for.
And just so, and I'll not to defend you, Vanessa, but what I'm about and what this page is about, I told Vanessa I will not ask about her arrest, and I will not ask for her arrest because she has an obligation to be quiet as a defendant. And also, if you are massively against Vanessa, and I'm trying to be impartial on this. You do not want her lawyers to be able to say, well, she did not get a fair trial because there was a poisoning of jury pool. So I believe in the Constitution and everybody has the right to due process. So I'm not going to ask about her arrest. I'm not going to ask about her family, her kids. There was a question earlier. I saw something about child support or something. I'm not asking those questions. I'm going to ask about issues that matter to me and to Manny and to Josh because we're conservatives. And we want to know who we want to vote for potentially in this particular race. I'm not endorsing Vanessa. Josh is not endorsing Vanessa. Manny's not endorsing Vanessa. Our page doesn't endorse people unless you hear it from my mouth. whether I endorse something I do. That's I'm not sure that's a fair question to ask, quite frankly, Renee. But it'll be there for her if she wants to reply to it at some point.
I want to just make it clear. Most of these are just very personal attacks. That's all it is. And I'm glad this is live, so that everybody, the voting majority that hasn't even become aware of this election, can see exactly what it is they need to vote for or vote against, depending on how they feel.
Fair question. There was a fair question there. Where was the $5,000 that came in?
What $5,000
are you talking about? Are you talking about the $1,250 that was on our campaign finance report, Sylvia? If that's the case, that's a good question. I'm going to assume that's what you meant. That you meant the $1,250. Vanessa, the question is, where did that money come from?
What $5,000 are they talking about? There's been zero $5,000 amounts regarding my election.
Right. The campaign finance report said $1,250.
Are we going to be taking questions from anonymous profiles?
No, it's a fair it's a question that came up, but I'm assuming she made a mistake and meant $1,250. Was your personal money? Yeah, $1,250, but she's asking where that came from.
What do you mean where that came from?
Is that your personal money? It's a really easy answer. Like if it was your personal money, it's your personal money. It's not a big deal.
It's personal money.
Yeah. Okay. Move on. You see, you can ask a question. This is a fair question. I was going to get to it, so you've asked the question for me. Why do you think the Republicans don't stand behind you?
Because I'm not their good old girl. That's exactly one. Last
night, there was an individual that submitted a question to you, Manny, regarding this specifically. Do you mind sharing that particular question for us, Manny? Because that seemed to be from a conservative. I didn't vote in a Republican primary. I'm not a Republican. I'm a conservative first, and I voted in Democrat primary. But it seems to me that we got concerns from you about your candidacy, Vanessa, because they're afraid that you're not going to be able to work with Republicans if you're in the majority. You're just going to be, an independent-minded person and not work with the majority. And there's certain things that happen in the Texas State Senate. You have to vote to allow certain things to come to the floor. And if you're constantly in their thorn, the Republican Party won't be able to get their agenda on the floor and sort of basically filibuster. So the question to be, I think, is would you be willing to work with Republicans if elected, even though they're not standing behind you in your election?
Oh, yeah, I have to. I'm not going to judge all the Republicans by a few badly behaving ones. Are you kidding? If that's the case, then we're just going to be just as bad as the worst of each party. I'm not going to be doing that. I became a Republican because the Republicans are also very aggressive, and they're the ones that are in power.
Right.
So anything that's working for the people, if it's Republican legislation and it's working, then we shouldn't change it. All right? And that's going to take being able to work together. Now, this is very similar to the question that somebody was asking, Vanessa, how are you going to pass legislation if everybody's against you? Well, there's going to come a point in time where anything that I bring forth to be voted on, I promise you, gentlemen, I'm going to sound more reasonable, more logical, and more practical than anything that is coming at me in an oppositional way. After a few times that happens, the voters are going to see who the problem is. It's not the most reasonable, practical, and logical one. It's everybody else. And then their voters can take care of those people.
Vanessa.
The question from Monica Elizabeth Casas was, what does being a Republican mean to you exactly? Or how do you see it?
I just told y'all. I just answered that question. Parties are meant for one thing and one thing only. That's to put your name on the ballot. Period.
Okay. The Houston Chronicle reported earlier this year that IDEA Charter Public Schools spent $2 million on a luxury jet and $400,000 for San Antonio Spurs tickets. Some legislators issued and were very concerned and voiced their displeasure with the way tax dollars were spent by IDEA Charter Public Schools. Would you be willing to draft legislation to shed light on all charter schools and how they do business, and what specifics would you support in that legislation?
First of all, I want to thank State Representative Terry Canales, because he's the one that raised most awareness to that situation. Listen, first of all, I'm not against charter schools for this reason. Charter schools would not have ever been created if public schools were doing the exact job keeping everybody happy the way that they're supposed to. Okay, we need to remember that. Now they're existent, and so now they're an entity that we have to deal with. Now you're going to be getting vouchers that could have gone to public school. and you're going to be getting them for your charter school. Are you using government funds for all of these exorbitant expenses? If our public school students are not even near making that kind of you have private jets for public school, all that money, if it's going to be spent that frivolously, that could be siphoned away to public schools to make them stronger. I have an issue with people having private jets. All of that was very necessary. And not only does legislation need to occur, but a congressional investigation needs to happen there.
President Trump.
Big question here.
I'll read this question. Amongst many credentials, Vanessa states that she has included but not limited to biologist, chemist, STEM candidate, nurse, paralegal, child abuse advocate, and special ed advocate. Can she provide the status of special ed education? Students, is there still an issue with students not receiving services? If so, is it more or less than $2.5 million? What is the remedy she plans to implement to sustain or maintain what she fixed? Or what will she do to continue fighting for this student population?
Perhaps, Ms. Guyona, can we see that question again? That was a very long question.
Yeah.
Perhaps Ms. Guyona,
your face.
Yeah.
Perhaps Glindy Guyona tuned in just a little bit too late, but I already addressed this. The problem with special education, remember, in 2016, Rosenthal, the reporter from the Houston Chronicle, he's the one that exposed all of this happening. You can take it away now. Let me see. I'm writing this down so I won't forget. All right. So when it was brought up and nobody was bringing it up to the State Board of Education, so me and my son were up there for a different reason, and we changed everything, what our plans there in the Capitol were going to do, we're going to be. And so then I went before the State Board of Education and I told them, for all of these reasons, y'all need to address this issue. They didn't listen. So for 3 months, I petitioned the U.S. Board of Education. Once they understood the issue, they made 5 different meetings in East Texas, West Texas, North Texas, South Texas, and Central Texas. The last meeting was right here in Edinburgh at Region 1. And they asked me if I could give the exact same testimony, word for word, that I gave before the State Board of Education to the U.S. Department of Education. And I did. Now, this is what happened 1 month later after I did that, and after all of us had all these 5 meetings all over the state of Texas. The U.S. Department of Education told Abbott, you must end this and you must implement a corrective action plan. Now, in speaking to many lawyers that are they are lawyers that advocate on behalf of parents and students who have been denied special education, even they understand that the problem has not been fixed. The problem has not been fixed at all to the degree necessary. Students are still being denied special education. They're being siphoned to something else. And 2.5 million, the 2.5 million special ed students that were denied special education was a number that was that you come up with, because in the Rosenthal report, it says that it was an average of 250,000 students every year for 10 years. 250,000 times 10 is 2.5 million. So if we know that it was 250,000, 2.5 million over 10 years, 250,000 every year, and the issue is not fixed, then it's reasonable to say that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of students who are still not receiving the education that they need.
Understood. My next question has to do with blocking on Facebook, but we've had an issue. I've been blocked on my Facebook by elected officials. We've had, particularly President Trump, there was a lawsuit involving President Trump blocking voters and Americans from being able to view his Twitter feed. So there was federal lawsuits, and it went into the federal courts, and federal courts have ruled that you cannot block people from your social media. So
you can if they're harassing you. I get that. You can.
You are allowed to block them from your personal Facebook page. That's no doubt. But your public page, when you're an elected official, you cannot block or restrict because you're violating their potential. That's what the courts have ruled. I'm not saying you, Vanessa Tijerina, or me from my personal page blocking people. You're more than welcome to do that. But as an elected official in your government profile, in your public page, you're not supposed to. Would you be able right now to guarantee that you would not block or restrict voters from your public government pages?
I'm going to be following all the rules that are set out there and that are in place, and I will be fighting against any rules and amending any laws and legislation to make that kind of situation more comfortable for both the public person and the constituents.
So you're willing to
Yes, I'm going to follow the law. Of course I am.
So you're willing to do that. I understand that's your opinion and you're allowed to do that. I don't necessarily agree with you, but that's just my personal opinion. I would hope that you would reconsider blocking.
Reconsider what?
Reconsider.
I just told you right now, I'm not going to be blocking anybody.
Okay, good. Oh, so you're not going to be blocking me. Okay, good.
That means that I'm not going to fight for legislation that allows public figures to be free from harassment and hate speech.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. I mean, but what I'm saying is your public government page, because there's been concerns. We got inundated with questions about this, and to be quite frank, when honest with you, I don't like the fact that my city commissioner has me blocked. It's ridiculous.
He shouldn't have blocked you. I mean, unless he blocked you from his government page.
Yeah. Let's just go there. That's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I'm not offended. I'm not a snowflake or easily triggered. This is a question that came up earlier. Thanks for posting that one up. Why does she think sabotaging a real progressive candidate in Sarah Stapleton Barrera was a good idea when Vanessa Tijerina was trying to run as a progressive Republican and really has no chance of unseating Senator Eddie Lusu Jr.?
Can I answer?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, if I had no chances, people wouldn't be on here trying to tell me I had no chances. They would just accept I had no chances. That's first of all. There's that. Second of all, Sarah Stapleton Barrera sabotaged herself. Okay, there was an article that came out in a very progressive newspaper in which they called her a Latina. She didn't, when it was brought to her attention, and I brought it up to her attention, she ignored the issue. When you do that, and the only Latina that's running in the race, and you are a white woman that is culturally appropriating that Latina's image, you better be sure that Latina, if she's smart enough, she's going to have to get strategic in order to overcome that damage that you did.
So there was if I understood you correctly, and I didn't know about this, and so you told me something I didn't know.
Let me get you the name of the article.
I'll believe you. I'll give you, and I have no doubt you're right. So you're saying that people were calling her Latina when in fact
yes, and I brought it to her attention. She saw it. She ignored it. And I brought it to the attention of the publication. They saw it, but they wanted Sarah so badly. They wanted her so badly. Why are people getting mad at things like this when this is strategy? This is strategy. Now, remember, Vanessa Tijerina was not sabotaging Sarah's campaign. Vanessa Tijerina for 6 months, for all up until the very last primary election, 3 weeks before that, I was pushing for Sarah. My whole entire Facebook was pushing for Sarah. I was the only one of the two females who was telling the whole Rio Grande Valley, hey, this is our chance to make history. My name's already there, and I'm a female. Let's do everything we can to get Sarah Stapleton Barrera to be the Democratic nominee standing.
Right.
And Sarah did not do that at all, not even a little bit. Right. She didn't care about Sarah.
Yeah.
So why is it a big deal when Vanessa only cares about Vanessa in her race?
No, I completely respect that. And you feel that she's culturally appropriating our Hispanic culture, or our Latino culture. I respect you for believing that. And I'm actually very disappointed that Sarah did that. I am. Now I will ask, this particular senatorial district has been gerrymandered to benefit a Democrat from being able to win. If this senatorial district were to include Nueces County, for example, I do not believe a Democrat would win this particular seat. If elected, what would you do to make this seat less gerrymandered and make it a 50-50 seat as opposed to a 60-40, 65-35 seat in favor of a Democrat?
The thing is, I don't agree. That means that I'd have to agree with what you're saying in order for me to even contemplate doing anything about that. And I think
it's gerrymandered. I mean, there's no.
Well, if you consider Nueces County and you're saying Nueces County, if they're included, that means that Nueces County is likely going to be voting more Republican.
Yes, because
However,
the reason is because Cameron County is about 35-40% Republican, or can be, and has
but
actually
they never
elected
go out to
Republicans.
vote. You see, no, I know I'm speaking to my followers out there. You see what Roman just said right now? That is exactly the reason that they're getting what it is they want, because the same people go out to vote. And he knows enough to say that if Nueces County enters the equation,
Right, because you would have to exclude the 80-20% part of Hidalgo County. And so if it were just Cameron County all the way up to Nueces County, you would more than likely get a Republican elected, and not necessarily just constantly a Democrat. I'm not making this up, Vanessa.
no, I know you're not making it up. This is true. This is true. And the reason that this is true is because of the way that people usually go vote or not vote. That's why you know this is a true prediction. That's why this is reasonable for you to say.
Right. So I'm just but right now, when that other person was saying you have no chance, it's very highly unlikely. And I've told you, Vanessa, I've told everybody publicly, it's very, very unlikely a Republican wins this seat.
Thanks for the support, Roman.
No. It's not that I'm not supporting you and I'm not endorsing anybody. It's just very unlikely.
No faith in the voters.
No, it's not that I don't have faith in the voters. I understand how voting happens. I've been involved in
I understand the nature of how voting has been recently. The majority of voters never go out to vote.
And so what we're trying to do, just so you, thank you. We're trying to get people to like our page because of the fact that we're trying to have a conservative message. We're center-right people. The majority of the guests that we have, it's our center-right. We try to do that, but we welcome everybody. And just so you all know, we have invited Senator Lucio Manny. I think you tried inviting him to come on our show. I have personally invited Mr. Hinojosa's family, Gilberto Hinojosa, who is the state party chairman for the Democrat Party. I'm open to having anybody and everybody who wants to come on. So if you have candidates or friends that are running for office, Democrats, Independents, Green Party, or Republicans, they're more than welcome to use our platform and come on our show. We would appreciate it. So please like and share our Facebook page. We appreciate it. Josh, do you have another question? If not, I'm going to keep going because I have tons more questions to go.
Yeah, I got one. Ms. Tijerina, if elected, you would be a very junior senator, a rookie. Who in the state Senate right now would you say you most identify with? And would you be willing to reach out with them to help them guide you, since you would be a newbie to the Senate?
There's nobody like me at all. Not even close. There's not. Everybody in Senate right now is a lot like each other. Everybody. There's nobody that's going to be guiding me. I'm going to be doing this all on my own with my staff and just doing the best thing possible and being open and honest with all of the constituents so that they can see she's doing everything she can. She's not the problem. It's everybody else. That is another reason that I ran.
The next question I had was having to do with property tax relief. Last legislative session, property tax relief was a big issue. Some legislators wanted to go further by offsetting property tax cuts by increasing sales taxes. Would you introduce legislation that would increase sales taxes?
Hold on, somebody's asking a question. Yes, I would absolutely debate Lucio any day of the week. Yes. Will Lucio debate me? He won't. And whether he chooses it or not, I'm ready for whatever. Yes, I would love to debate. There's nobody in Texas that I would not debate. How's that?
Yeah, I would really be, we would be willing to host a debate, just so you, we'd be willing to host a debate, anybody. I do hope that there would be a forum. It's a shame that there isn't a forum for you all to debate each other. But my question about sales taxes, would you be willing to increase sales taxes in the form of legislation or not?
Only as a last resort. Which is the reason that one of my main things on my platform, one of the biggest things, which includes job creation, which includes more justice and more addressing institutional racism, has to do with the decriminalization of the cannabis industry and the decriminalization of marijuana. So all of that money that could have been going, all of that money from marijuana sales in the hemp industry can absolutely have lawmakers be digging into that instead of having a nickel and dime all these people for the property tax and sales tax. The thing is, they're not creating new ways of creating money and making revenue. And if you continue to do that, you have gaming industry. There's an A-liner gaming industry. We are the size of 5 average states. If they wanted to take the game lining industry and actually do the right thing by those laws, then we could create an entirely new industry. But nobody wants to do that because you got a lot of lobbyists that are coming over here to Texas and talking to a lot of people in Congress and lawmakers saying, you know, please don't legalize gambling in Texas because you're going to take all the money away from the surrounding states that are actually making money off of it right now. So then Texans are the ones that are without the ability to create new revenue under those circumstances.
Yeah, and it's funny. That was my next question I was going to ask you. Do you support the legalization of marijuana or gambling or both?
Absolutely. And this is the problem that I have with Senator Lucio is that he doesn't even touch that issue. If anything, he's basically, somebody could say that he's against it because he hasn't even touched the issue. Now, his son likes the CBD oils or whatever that is. I am for the full legalization of the entire plant, And when you legalize, when you decriminalize marijuana, look at the states that are benefiting from doing exactly that which I am wanting to fight for. When you decriminalize marijuana, not only do you create jobs where a lot of the people in Texas who have questionable backgrounds, you know, a little bit of something that may not even be a crime of moral turpitude, right? Something that, you know, doesn't prevent you from getting a job. The hemp industry and the marijuana industry can create jobs for those people who feel that they can't get jobs anywhere else because of their background checks. Okay. Yeah. So also, the decriminalization of marijuana will prevent our youth from being locked up and getting criminal records simply because of cannabis.
So I want to make sure I understood you correctly, because you support legalization of gambling and you do support the legalization of marijuana.
Absolutely. Those are two revenues that absolutely need to be taken advantage of.
That's a very libertarian, and the libertarian philosophy is running high within the Republican Party. So that could be a Republican flavor type philosophy by legalizing marijuana and legalizing gambling in our state. Do you believe racial discrimination and school segregation exist in public education in Texas, as Senator Bernie Sanders believes? What would you do to combat it in Texas if elected?
What was the first part of that question?
Do you believe racial discrimination and school segregation exists in public education, as Senator Bernie Sanders believes?
I believe that.
And what would you do to combat it in Texas?
I believe that there's classism that exists, and classism can be classism is the greater thing because you have students who are poor and students who are not poor. And yeah, I absolutely think that matters, especially in regards to some teachers giving some curriculum to some students. They may be more likely to give a lot of attention to the children that they know come from families that care about them more, or that have more money, or that pay attention to the child a little bit more. So versus the other classes of children that you can tell are they don't get as much attention as perhaps the ones that I just stated do. So that level of classism allows some districts and some teachers to slap off on giving the appropriate amount of attention to all students. Some teachers, some. So I do believe that it exists. I do. But I thank goodness for all the teachers that don't demonstrate that.
Again, a reminder, we appreciate a like on our Facebook page and a subscribe on our YouTube channel if you like our content. Just for future reference, tomorrow we'll be discussing the vice presidential debate. We'll be doing a live of the debate. We'll be talking about the debate. So bring whether you support Vice President Biden or President Trump and the running mates, please join us. And on Thursday, we'll be having a executive movie producer, the movie producer for Infidel. And also a new documentary is coming out. It's called Trump Card. And so we have really cool stuff that we try to do here at RioPolitics. So we appreciate it again. And again, welcome, Vanessa, because Manny put it up again. My next question for you, and I do appreciate your answers. I do. I'm trying to get my phone to work. Some liberal progressives support ending what they call for-profit greed in our Texas criminal justice system. Would you support any or all of the following as legislative initiatives? 1, banning for-profit prisons and detention centers. 2, ending cash bail and making prison and jail communications. 3, reentry, diversion, and treatment programs fee-free.
Hold on, because that's a multi-pronged
I know. I know. I just want to see where your position is on this particular issue.
Okay, the first part was what?
banning for-profit prisons and detention centers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's go one by one.
Right. That's fine.
Anytime that you privatize, any kind of industry that matters, you're going to decrease the quality and the access of that particular industry. And whenever you privatize things like healthcare, then it's all about making that margin bigger for the people that are trying to profit. Okay. When you privatize college, then it's only going to be the people that can afford it or the ones that have the best opportunities to be able to attain that higher level education. So when you privatize prisons, there is no incentive, first of all, to fix the broken parts of the prison system. And there is very many broken parts of the prison system. But when you choose to deprivatize and make it just a government-run industry, then you increase the quality, because then you put the burden on the government to be a little bit more humane. And it's not just a private person or a private corporation that's going to take the brunt of it. It's the government.
Okay. The other thing, would you be willing, and again, this is what progressives believe is for-profit greed. Would you believe that these are examples of for-profit greed?
Excuse me?
Do you believe that some of these are examples of for-profit greed?
Well, you only said one.
No, I'll give you more, but okay, we'll go through all three and then I'll ask you that question. Awesome. Do you believe in following, would you be willing to put legislative initiatives for ending cash bail and making prison and jail communications ending
cash bail?
Yeah, would you be willing to end cash bail?
Ending prison community, like in other words, cut off the inmate's ability to connect to the outside world?
No, would you end that? Because right now it seems like they're not able to make that communication to the outside world as much as they want to.
I think that we're not going to be addressing, if we're going to continue to poorly address the issues of medical access to inmates, poorly address the issues of mental health. You know, there's a lot of people that are in jail right now, inmates right now, that are in there and they don't have those kind of basic, very important needs met. And some people say, well, they did the crime, you know, let them do the time and let it be as inhumane as possible. I'm sorry. As a government, you have to, at the very minimum, provide a humane situation for them. So if we're not going to be taking care of the mental health issue and their health and stuff like that, then cutting off a communication or making it more difficult for them to communicate to the outside world is going to exacerbate all those problems that haven't even had enough attention.
So you would be willing to end cash bail, because that seems to be a very big progressive issue in this election cycle. You would support that?
I think that ending cash bail would make things a little bit more fair. Okay. Because right now it just seems like the people that can afford the most money are the ones that are out of jail.
Right. And then would you be in support and put legislation forward, if elected, for re-entry, diversion, and treatment programs to be fee-free? In other words, no fees whatsoever. You don't have to pay for that stuff if you're wanting to get re-entered into society.
Like to assimilate them back into society. Right. All the things like, hey, you know, you've been in prison for 20 years. Now you need to learn how to live in the real world.
You have to pay for that. And so progressives want to end it and make it fee-free for felons and convicts and people that have been in jail.
So they basically, wait a minute, what do progressives want to do? They want to help these people, or they want to take away?
They want to end it. Right now, like you just said, there's fees you have to pay back to the system. You have to make all these particular fees in order to re-enter society. And what the progressives want to do is end that so that there's no fees. You don't have to pay that. We just want to make sure you get your treatment, get your diversion programs, and you don't have to worry about these fees. That's what progressives want to do. Would you support that?
I think that's a good idea. So, and honestly, it should be taken as a case-by-case basis, not a blanket thing. Because if you look at the case and you see that person truly was just being a criminal, there was no other mental illness involved, there was no other substance abuse involved, that means that person was likely just making a choice to be a criminal. There's a difference. There's a difference between that and between those other two groups, the mental health and the substance abuse. That's different. So it had to be taken on a case-by-case basis, but yes.
Understood. So as a whole, the examples that I've given are examples of what progressives see. If we end these things, if we fix these things, that you'll end the system of what they perceive to be for-profit greed. Do you believe that these are issues that would end that, or do you not agree that these are examples of for-profit greed?
Yes, obviously the bail system, they're making money off the bail bonds are making money off of that. People are making money off of that. And you don't know if some judges are out there forcing these kind of bails and then they're getting something under the table. You don't know that, but the possibility exists, and you always need to think about that possibility. I think that this would make a really big step towards reducing racial institutionalism. I don't think that this is going to completely get rid of fix the issue. And the issue does exist. The decriminalization of marijuana will absolutely. I'm the only one. Senator Lucio, during the ACLU, there was an ACLU panel, and it was when 3 of the Democrats were still running. Senator Lucio did not bother to show up. And they asked us a question. I'm the only candidate still right now. I'm the only one that wants to. You asked me what kind of bills I'd like to introduce. I want to introduce a bill to release all TDCJ offenders that are in prison right now for crimes involving marijuana, in which they were not violent. Okay, and to me, that decriminalization of marijuana goes hand in hand, because the rationale and the basis that you would give for the decriminalization of marijuana is the same rationale that you would give for releasing these offenders for those kind of crimes. And yes, that will help also. And I'm also for the expungement of anybody that is in TDCJ right now for crimes against involving marijuana in which they were not violent. The thing with that is this: if we are going to continue to punish people for the choices that they make in order to put food on the table for their families or in order to survive, how fair is it that we keep punishing them, keep making money off of their incarceration, and we're not doing anything about their outcomes so that they won't have to resort to things like that?
By the way, if you all have recently liked our page, please turn on your live notifications. There should be like 3 little dots. Turn on live video notifications so that whenever we come on live, because later on, I think Manny and I are planning on coming on maybe around 11:30, and that way you don't have to miss any of our lives. Sometimes we just surprise do live. So I appreciate it. Manny, you had a question? You messaged me right now. You had a question?
Yeah, just a couple things. A reminder again, we are speaking with Vanessa Tijerina. I'm still trying to put your comments up there. And one question came through. I thought it was a joke, but they're actually pretty serious about it. Would you ever consider pushing to legalize, or what are your thoughts on polygamy?
Polygamy?
Yep.
I think the divorce rate right now is and since the 80s, it's been about 50-50. So I think that we already have an issue with couples, whether they're of same sex or different sex, and the high divorce rate. I think that adding the element of polygamy is only going to make that worse. So no.
Okay. Would you? Thanks. Would you support legislation ensuring law enforcement accountability and robust oversight, including banning the use of facial recognition software for policing in Texas, or ending qualified immunity for law enforcement officers?
Ending qualified immunity is a huge thing. But the thing is, qualified immunity is what keeps school districts behaving badly. It is what keeps every level of government behaving badly. But it's very, very important when you have officers that truly behave badly, and not just put the public in risk, but also put other officers that do not behave badly at risk themselves too. So absolutely, right now we have that is very good question. Right now we have a system where if officers were mandated and governed in the way that nurses were in Texas, we'd weed out the bad apples a lot quicker, and we'd increase the quality that we get out of our law enforcement officers. Right now, as it stands, if a nurse behaves absolutely badly, they are reported to the board of nursing. All right, they are completely investigated. There's some things that you are mandated to report. That's not happening with law enforcement. Not only is it not happening, the rate at which they are allowed to resign and go on and keep their records unblemished puts the public at risk when they go on to the next county or the next law enforcement agency. That matters.
Yeah, understood. Democrat State Representative and current Senate District 19, Roland Gutierrez, supports a $10 million gun buyback program. Do you support a gun buyback program in Texas? And is $10 million enough funding for this gun buyback program?
I would support that only if we don't have nowhere else in Texas where $10 million would do a much better job helping Texans.
So if money was not an option, would you support a gun buyback program?
If money was not an option, yes. That means and that's a good way of doing it, because these people are not being forced. They're not being forced to do this. They're willingly doing this. You're not impeding on their Second Amendment right. You're giving them the option to give up their guns.
Do you support red flag laws by any chance?
You mean like when they flag somebody for like mental health or something like that? Or yes.
Okay. The next one, I have to scroll back up because I went a little too far. Would you support or introduce legislation that would ban fracking in Texas? Because we are an energy state. For better or for worse, in Texas, we are a high energy state, and fracking seems to be a big issue, and not necessarily in Central District 27, but in other parts of Texas. And we, for example, we have a lot of windmills in our SD. Some of them are rusting out; they're not necessarily work out, and so fracking seems to be the way of the West, I guess. So, would you support and introduce legislation on fracking?
I think that fracking needs to be, it just depends on the tectonic plates underneath that particular area where they want to frack, period. Mm-hmm. There's an area, Texas is huge, and it is the second largest state in the nation, second only to Alaska. All right. So when you start moving, you see Alaska's up there where their subterranean doesn't really move that much. Okay. So you can frack and do whatever it is that you want to the soil. And the chances of you moving those tectonic plates and causing some kind of other adverse reaction that is going to affect the public, like earthquakes and things like that, that matters. That matters. So I think that we should be I think that should also be taken on a case-by-case basis. And people should be looking at the ground and checking to see, is this so close to a certain tectonic plate, or is this so close to an area that it may have a potential of causing this other kind of disaster? That matters. I'm not against the fossil fuel industry. In fact, I understand that during my lifetime, the fossil fuel industry is going to, during my lifetime, it's going to be a transition. Probably the next generation, maybe they will be completely, without fossil fuels and without needing fossil fuels. But during my lifetime, I'm reasonable enough to accept that we're still going to have that industry, and that industry is still going to be viable, and there's still going to be a need for that industry.
Alondra has a good question, I think. Do you agree with Trump that COVID is not that serious using your background knowledge?
No, I disagree. I think that it's very serious. Look, there's two kinds of COVID that are out there right now. We know that there's a very aggressive type and there's a very less aggressive type. And so knowing that the very aggressive type is the type that people are having a hard time surviving, and knowing that the effects of the more aggressive type leave you with diminished lung capacity, I think that we have to take that seriously, because not every case of COVID is the less aggressive type of COVID. And so anytime that there's lives at risk and it's a pandemic, and there's a potential for many people and entire households to be affected, I think that we should always think that that's a big deal.
Right. The state budget is currently $250.6 billion, and it was about 16% higher than the previous budget. Do you believe it's too much, just right, or not enough of an increase? If it is too much, what would you cut? If it is not enough, what would you increase, and how would you pay for it?
To be honest with you, I would be pretty unwise to answer that question, because I haven't had access to actually see where all the money's going. And to give you an answer, I would say that if we're taking care of all of the things that matter the most and are the most important and the most fundamental issues, then we have plenty of money. If we cannot sustain those issues and find solutions with any issues that we have like that, then we don't have enough money. that
Yeah.
I would be really foolish and unwise to answer that question without actually looking and seeing where the money's going and what things can be cut and what things are important and what things we can possibly live without. What's essential and what's not. Period.
Right, I understand. That's fair. UT system schools are now offering free tuition for many students whose parents fall below a certain income. However, according to the Texas Tribune, the UT system increased tuition about 2.6% across all campuses for 2020 and 2021. Do you agree this increase affects middle-class families and students unfairly? If so, what legislation would you support to alleviate the cost of college education for lower to middle-class families and working families in Texas? Want me to read it again? I'll read it again.
No. I feel bad for institutions of higher education. They're put in a really bad position. Anytime that a university or college needs to find more funding, the first thing they do is they increase tuition. That's like the only thing that they do. That burden falls on the legislators. Okay, the legislators are the ones, like I said earlier. That's why everything is connected. Everything comprehensively is connected in some way. And so, if we realize that we are losing a lot of money and the ability to create revenue, the hemp industry, the cannabis industry, the gaming industry, all of those industries would be able to alleviate the situation regarding tuition. Greatly so. Greatly so. But right now, unless we have any kind of extra revenue coming, the burden is then on the schools to figure out a way to get money. And the only way to do that is to increase tuition. So then when you have a situation where you create laws that the lower income families are in there, it's not really free. It's not really free. That somebody's going to have to take that burden on. And so, yes, it does affect the middle income families who are probably barely making it and don't even fall even near or below the poverty line, but they're still having to pay extra tuition. But that's not the fault of the institutions of higher education. That's the fault of the lawmakers for not creating other sources of revenue. Real quick, nobody's using Google. I know Victoria Marie wants to say you can't be using Google right now. Nobody's using Google. In fact, my eyes have been right here on the screen. I don't need to use Google. Everything that I'm saying is right here.
I think you're just writing down your notes when I ask you long, complicated questions. Sometimes they're even convoluted, but there's a reason.
I didn't know that you could research Google with a pen in your hand.
No worries. That's a fair question. Where is he? I don't know. I don't know where San Lucio is, quite frankly. I don't. Usually
I know where he's not. He's not out there trying to get your vote. We
usually do rapid fire questions, but we got inundated with stuff, and I want to make sure I got through as many of the questions that I had as possible, myself and Josh. So we usually do rapid fire at this point earlier, and rapid fire is fun. It's supposed to line it up a little bit and just get a feel for you. So I'm just going to start out, and we go like 1 or 2 minutes, and that's it. So what's your favorite color, red or blue? Red. Well, you're wearing red. This is the Zach Cantu from KRV's sponsored question. He always makes me ask this question. Cake or pie?
Cake.
Cake. What flavor of cake?
Strawberry.
The other question he always makes me ask, and it's his sponsored question, is right Twix or left Twix? I know it's stupid.
I don't like Twix.
You don't like Twix? I don't like it either.
Right, because going left to me just seems unnecessary for whatever reason. I don't know. It just seems like taking the wrong turn.
Chess. This is the Ray Martinez. He is in Brownsville. He's well known to be a good chess coach. So he always wants us to ask this question: chess or checkers?
Chess.
What's your favorite chess piece? Seriously. The queen. You see? That's a good question. Man, you got any?
I was going to say football or basketball.
Basketball.
And by the way, are you watching sports? What's your take on all the politics that's been injected into sports?
Okay, which one? The COVID-19 situation that's affecting sports, or the racial stuff?
Well, yeah. That's not really rapid fire, Manny. So is it okay if you answer that question after we're done with rapid fire?
Right. All right.
All right, favorite
I know
basketball
that was
team.
a pretty comprehensive question.
I know, it's like it's not even rapid fire. What's your favorite basketball team right now?
My favorite, the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay, right. That okay.
Cowboys or Texans?
Ooh. I know, right?
Cowboys.
Cowboys. That's a tough question. That we asked that question. Astros or Rangers?
Astros.
Okay, red is favorite color. Iron Man or Batman?
Iron Man.
Iron Man. Why? I'm just kidding.
Why? Okay.
Marvel
First
or DC?
of all,
Yeah.
okay. Well, both of them don't have their own superpowers, so both
Right.
of them
Exactly.
themselves without their artillery.
Yeah.
It's just Iron Man seems to be always a little bit more like he seems really smart in a way that I haven't seen the narrative of Batman demonstrate.
Okay. DC Universe or Marvel Universe?
DC.
Okay. So you go with Iron Man and DC. You're so contradictory, Vanessa. I'm just kidding.
The whole DC. But you asked me about.
I know. I get it. It's okay. I get it. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yoda or Spock?
Yoda.
Yoda. Okay.
You can't even compare those two.
Okay. You got Josh. You got a question?
Teddy Roosevelt or Franklin Roosevelt?
Ooh. Oh my goodness, that's Franklin.
Really? You had to go with Franklin? You couldn't go with TR?
Simply because of this. I love Teddy Roosevelt, and he is the only other progressive Republican ever before me, unless you guys can think of anybody else. He's the only other progressive Republican in history, right? Now, he's the one who's conservationist, and then I was breaking it down, and I was like, well, I've seen kind of like a racist kind of thing attached to Teddy Roosevelt, which is the reason that I said FDR.
I'm not gonna go there because I'm a history person and I don't want to fight with you on this one. So we're good.
Well, no, I remember because it broke my heart a little bit. Whenever I was doing my research on Teddy Roosevelt, I was like, "What? You met with these people?" That was a little bit like he took the side of racism in a certain situation, and so that's the only reason that I picked.
That's why it's a tough question. That's why rapid fire questions are tough. One or the other. I was Bill or Hillary Clinton.
Between those two,
I know it's tough, really tough.
Hillary.
All right, Biden or Trump?
Why though?
It doesn't matter. Just Biden or Trump.
No,
you can say why. Oh, fine. I'll let you say why.
Batman and Iron Man. And this is very important.
Yeah.
Trump, only because of this. Both candidates, to me, one is not better than the other. One's not better than the other. Now, I would not have wanted Biden. Somebody else should have been the Democratic nominee. And if anybody's mad at Trump for being Trump and for him for being our POTUS, they need to be mad at the Democratic Party for not nominating somebody that could compete with him in 2016 and 2020. Now, the reason that I picked Trump is boils it down to one thing and one thing only: the plight of women. Simply, and that's it. I would rather not risk 8 more years of a man in power as POTUS and only cement 4 more years of a man in power before we're able to get a woman in there. And by voting for Biden, you are definitively risking 10 years before we get a chance to put a woman in that seat. At least with Trump, you know that you're only going to get 4.
Our favorite Fox News host, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson.
Sean Hannity.
Okay. All right. Do you have any questions, Josh? Because we're done. No, now we'll do the Manny question that he wanted. And nobody gave us any rapid fires. You're allowed to give us rapid fire questions, guys, but nobody wanted to. It's okay.
Go ahead, Manny.
We got some rapid fire, but they were not worthy of posting.
Okay. All right. No worries. Manny, what was your question about the politics and sports?
Not going down to that level. Yeah. So politics and sports. I mean, I love football. I love baseball. I'll peak at football right now, but just everything that went on with that was just handled, I think, so wrong by the league. Even the NBA putting the victims' names on their jerseys when there were, more police officers that were killed, and victims of these victims that were raped or assaulted, and I just think it's business. I don't get it. It doesn't seem real what they're doing. And
This is the thing. This is the thing that I have. Look, I understand why you feel that way. I really do, because it's like, come on, you're taking a national pastime and you're doing it this in this way. But there is no change and there is no movement politically that ever occurs unless there's a level of outrage that's created. No level of outrage was being created, no matter how many. Now remember, these are Black folks, okay? The majority of the NBA and the majority of the NFL are Black folks. These people are capitalizing off of the strengths and bodies of these Black folks. How is it from the beginning of time in the United States? They were in chains. Now, many people are making money off of them. Now, imagine being in their situation, knowing that you're making all this money, right? And unless really you're in the entertainment industry or you're really good in sports, you're really not going to get ahead in this life if you are Black in America. This is true. Just look at the statistics. Now, if you realize after years and decades, nobody's looking at how we're being affected out in the real world with the police. The only real way to make a certain level of outrage is to use a platform like that. And we cannot, I cannot say that they were wrong for doing that. Nobody was listening to them. And if Kaepernick hadn't done what he did, nobody would have cared. He was just happened to be the first one to do it, so he was crucified, just like me. I was the first one to do a lot of things here, so I'm crucified and seen as a troublemaker.
Yeah, but my issue is you got time before the game starts and you got time after the game is over.
Well, you can't raise the necessary level.
Do your whatever, but you got the press in the locker room. You can say what you want right there.
You have to
leave the game alone.
I know what you mean, but I also get, because I'm looking at it from the mind of an activist, that I understand where you're coming from. But if you look at it from the mind of an activist, you're like, that's not going to create, I'm going to have to potentiate my moves. The moves to create the necessary level of outrage are not going to be potentiated before and after the game. They're going to be potentiated when all eyes are on the field, which means during the game.
All right. I did not mean to keep you longer than an hour, Vanessa. I always try to respect.
I do this for 2 or 3 hours.
Oh no, I do like to respect the time of our guests, and I told you it was only going to be an hour, a little bit longer, and we've went a little bit longer than we planned on it. But I think,
gentlemen, it was a pleasure. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Vanessa, I always end with this question. Is there any topic or question like a question I didn't ask, or topic that you feel passionate about that you'd like to mention now for us, and have that be your closing thought for today?
I want to look really quickly, because I did not release this. This was just today. I released a bullet point of my platform, and so I want to just mention this really quickly. Because this matters, and that's how I'm going to answer this.
Okay, no worries. Oh, sorry.
So I want to say this is going to be on the back of my flyer, and the front's going to be the bullet points. But this to me is important. I am the only anti-corruption candidate. I'm the only candidate with healthcare experience, and I've been a nurse for over 20 years. I'm the only candidate that fought for special education students, like I explained earlier. I'm the only candidate with a proven track record of activism and advocating outside of an elected seat. I'm the only candidate that is not a millionaire. I'm the only candidate that is not part of the compadrismo system, and I'm the only one that's unconnected. I'm the only STEM candidate, science, technology, engineering, and math. I'm the only candidate that is pro-cannabis and pro-hemp industry. And I just explained to you, gentlemen, why that matters. And I'm the only candidate that does not make money off the current system. Senator Lucio makes money off the prison system. And to me, that's a really huge problem. And I have to say that because this is part of my platform. Now, what do I promise to fight for? Because in the end, you cannot promise everybody. What voters want, they know that it's going to be an impossibility for you to get everything that you fight for. What they care about is that you actually deliver the fight that you say that you're going to deliver. That's what they care about. And it's like in love. this is a form of love. It's not romance. That when you're in a relationship with a person, really, it's most endearing when you see the level of care and the level of thought and fight that they have to keep that relationship intact. It's the same thing with the voters and with the politicians. They're going to be very disturbed whenever they see, wait a minute, you never ever give us the fight that you promised. That I can tell you, I promise you, I pledge that you will see this fight from me. You're going to see, Vanessa promises to fight for a veterans hospital in the Rio Grande Valley. It's ridiculous that we have 7 veterans hospitals in Texas and not one of them is in the Rio Grande Valley. That's ridiculous. Okay. She promises to fight for the better life outcomes for all children in Senate District 27, not just for the children that are connected. Everybody needs a chance. I promise to fight for the protection and better opportunities for women and children. I promise to fight for the parental rights of non-custodial parents. I promise to fight for job creation and increased oversight over our law enforcement to be able to protect non-corrupt law enforcement officers and the public from injustices. Increased oversight over our schools to be able to protect teachers, students, and staff from any injustices. Increased oversight over our judges of every level to protect the public from any injustices. Increased oversight over our state agencies to create a more efficient government leading to justice for all. 2 more things. The release of offenders, like I already told you, from Texas prisons who are incarcerated for non-violent crimes regarding cannabis. Congressional investigations over the most serious issues that affects Texans, aka Fort Hood, things like that. And environmental issues. That's all I gotta say.
Well, thank you so much, Vanessa, for coming on. We hope to have you again, maybe before the election. That's what we're trying to do for everybody again. This is, and I want to make clear to everybody, this is an endorsement of you, Vanessa. No offense, I'm not endorsing anybody. Unless I personally know you, like you're like one of my good friends, I try not to do that. And so no offense to you or to Senator Lucio. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate you. Everybody was liking our page and supporting our page. We appreciate it. We hope you stick around. We do a lot of cool stuff. Manny is in charge of the page, not myself. I just do some of these shows with him. This is our page together, but he's the one who mans it. So if you get mad at anybody, get mad at him, not me.
Thank you for having me, and thank you so much for having me.
When we log off, when we say goodbye, don't go away, Vanessa, please. So any last thoughts, Manny, Josh, anything before we go?
No, just thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts, Vanessa. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and
there were a whole lot of comments at way at the end. I just decided not even bother anymore because they're obviously from somewhere else, and they were all in line with the same crap. So
the same agenda.
So and just so you all know, we're not. This isn't a personal attack on Vanessa. That's not what this is for. That's not what our page is for. We want to be as fun. Our 7:30 show is very different than our late night show. Our late night show is more fun, free, whatever. But this is more. I think we try to do a serious show for people, and hope you all appreciate it and appreciate our show and will like our page. We appreciate you, Vanessa, again, and everybody. And tomorrow we'll be talking the vice presidential debate. So please join us again tomorrow. It should be a lot of fun. We'll have some conservative activists from the Valley that join us. I think Josh, you'll be with us. I think Manny's definitely going to be with us. And we'll have some other people. I think Myra's supposed to be with us tomorrow, hopefully, with Latinos for Trump. And again, we'll have an awesome guest on Thursday, Debbie D'Souza. She's originally from Harlingen, and she's a movie producer. She's the wife of Dinesh D'Souza. So if you ever watch Fox News a lot or Ben Shapiro's show, then you will know who Dinesh D'Souza is, and his wife will be with us to talk about her role in the making of Trump card. So God bless you all. This is RioPolitics Live. We don't make the news; we just help you see it. So God bless, guys. Bye.